What if I told you the data coming out of Nashville Superspeedway has half the Cup Series garage quietly losing sleep? Not the road course aces, not the rookies, the oval specialists, the blokes who've spent 20 years carving concrete ovals for a living. Because on the night of May 31st, Shane van Gisbergen, and that's Gisbergen, hard G like give, not jizz. The Kiwi from Auckland, the bloke they said couldn't turn left, just dropped a 5th place finish at a 1.33-mile concrete oval. His first ever Cup Series top 5 on an oval, and one veteran crew chief talking to media after the race basically said the quiet part out loud: if he figures out the long runs, we're all in trouble. That's not hype, mate. That's a confession. And once you see what the telemetry is actually showing, you'll understand why the establishment is suddenly very, very nervous. Let's get into it. Now, here's the thing the casual fan doesn't get. All season long, the narrative around SVG has been the same tired line: he's a road ringer. Bring him to Sonoma, bring him to Watkins Glen, bring him to the Chicago streets, and he'll embarrass the field. Take him to Kansas, to Dover, to Bristol, cooked. And the numbers back that up. Through the first half of 2025, his average oval finish hovered around 22nd. Trackhouse, by their own admission, weren't winning the oval setup war. Ross Chastain, their supposed oval guy, was averaging a 20th finish even after a Coca-Cola 600 win. Daniel Suarez sat at 24th. SVG was right there with them at 24th. So the question fans down here in Australia and New Zealand kept asking was a fair one. Is Trackhouse actually giving this bloke equal kit? Because let's be honest, when you've got Hendrick rolling out wind tunnel perfect Chevys, when Joe Gibbs Racing is dialed in to the millimeter, a single car effort from Trackhouse on the oval program was always going to feel like bringing a butter knife to a gunfight. And SVG, to his credit, never publicly whinged about it. Not once. He just kept saying, I've got to learn. The car's fine, I've got to learn. But behind the scenes, the Aussie and Kiwi press were picking up the whispers. Setup data from the 97 car wasn't matching Chastain's one car at certain ovals. Spring rates, sway bars, ride heights, there were differences. Some legitimate driver preference stuff, some not so easily explained. And this is where the Nashville data flips the entire script, because at Nashville, on a track where the concrete chews tires and rewards the most experienced ovalmen in the sport, SVG didn't just survive, he led 12 laps. He went wheel to wheel, over and under with Kyle Larson. Larson, the bloke widely considered the most complete oval driver of his generation, and SVG didn't flinch. That's not a road ringer getting lucky on a strategy call. That's a driver who's quietly cracked the code, right? Let's get into the technical bit, because this is where it gets properly interesting. You've probably heard the chatter about SVG's footwork. Max Verstappen called him a crazy right foot breaker. Dale Earnhardt Jr. has spent entire podcast segments breaking it down. Here's why it matters on an oval, and specifically why Nashville's data is the canary in the coal mine. In a supercar, Shane brakes with his right foot and blips the throttle with the same foot, heel, and toe style, while his left foot rides the clutch. It's an old-school technique most modern drivers have abandoned. In NASCAR, the Cup car doesn't need that you can left foot brake all day. Most of the field does, but Shane kept his right foot habit, and on a road course, that's a known weapon. It lets him trail brake deeper, rotate the car on entry, and get back to throttle with surgical precision. Here's the twist no one's talking about. That same technique that micro-modulated right foot input turns out to be bloody brilliant on a worn tire concrete oval like Nashville. Why? Because Nashville's surface eats rubber. By lap 40 of a green flag run, the car is sliding around, the right rear is greasy, and you're managing the throttle on entry as much as the brake. SVG's natural ability to feather, modulate, and feel slip angle, the stuff that made him a 3-time Supercars champion, is the exact skill set Nashville rewards on long runs. Look at what actually happened in the race. Trackhouse rolled the dice and went 2 tires on the lap 41 competition caution. SVG cycled to the lead. He held off Larson for 12 laps. Then later, on the 4-tire strategy, the car went tight, he lost the balance, and he slipped back. 2 tires again, balance returned. He scythed through traffic and finished 5th, 0.6 seconds behind Stenhouse Jr. That tells you everything. The driver isn't the limit. The setup window is the limit. When the car is even close to balanced, SVG is now running with the front of the field on an oval. Oh, his own words after the race, "I learned to be comfortable moving around in turns 1 and 2, which I've never been able to do before." Translation? He's no longer locked into one line. He's reading the track. He's finding grip in places the spotter didn't even call. That's not rookie behavior. That's a champion adapting in real time, and the oval specialists know it because they remember what happened at Chicago. They remember what happened at Sonoma. They remember Watkins Glen, 4 wins in 2025 on the road. Now imagine that same learning curve, that same ruthless adaptation applied to their turf. That's the nightmare scenario. That's why Nashville isn't just a top 5. It's a warning shot. Look, before we get into the next twist, and trust me, you want to hear this one, I need to ask you something straight up. If you're watching this from Auckland, from Sydney, from Christchurch, from Perth, if you've been following Shane since the Supercars days, since the Bathurst wins, since he was carving up Mount Panorama, this channel is for you. We're building a proper Southern Hemisphere community here, a place where Kiwi and Aussie NASCAR fans can actually get analysis that doesn't treat SVG like a novelty act. We're sitting just under 1,000 subscribers right now. That's the threshold, mates. Hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, and let's get this crew across the line this week, because when SVG wins his first oval, and that's a when, not an if, I want every one of you here to celebrate it with the rest of us. Don't be a stranger. Join the crew. Right. On to the twist. Here's what's been bubbling in the silly season rumor mill, and it's the kind of story that could reshape the entire Cup Series landscape. 23X1 Racing, Michael Jordan's outfit, the team that started 2026 on an absolute tear back-to-back, wins out of the gate. Tyler Reddick leading the point standings, Bubba Wallace running consistent top 10s. They've got Toyota power, they've got the resources, they've got the swagger, and according to multiple paddock sources, they've been making, let's call them informal inquiries about a certain New Zealander. Now, Trackhouse signed SVG to a multi-year deal, and Justin Marks deserves enormous credit for being the bloke who actually bet on him when no other American team would. That loyalty is real. But here's the cold business reality. If SVG keeps producing 5th place oval finishes alongside 3 or 4 road course wins a year, his market value goes nuclear. And 23XY has Toyota money behind them. Trackhouse is a single manufacturer Chevrolet team punching above its weight. Just imagine SVG in a 23XY Toyota. Reddick, Wallace, and Van Gisbergen as a 3-car lineup, the intel sharing, the wind tunnel data, the simulator hours, the crew chief talent pool that Joe Gibbs cycles through Toyota's partner teams. That's not an upgrade, that's a transformation. Is it happening? Nobody's signing anything tomorrow, but the conversations are real, and the longer Trackhouse struggles to give him a championship caliber oval package, the louder those conversations get. Watch this space closely. So here's where we land, mate. Nashville wasn't a fluke. It was a fingerprint. It was the first piece of hard evidence that SVG's unique style, the right foot braking, the Supercars feel, the relentless adaptation translates to ovals when the setup gives him a chance. The specialists aren't worried about a road ringer anymore. They're worried about a complete driver finding his feet in their backyard, and whether he stays at Trackhouse or ends up under the jump man in a 23X1 Toyota, one thing is bloody certain. The bloke from Auckland is not going away. So tell me in the comments, and I genuinely want to know your read on this. Is SVG being held back by the car, or is the driver still the limiting factor on ovals? Comment, team, if you reckon Trackhouse can't give him what he needs. Comment, driver, if you think he's still got more to learn before equipment becomes the excuse. I'll be reading every single one. Until next time, keep the rubber side down.